This is a bleak and dangerous coast. The cliffs are steep and crumbling. There are frequent landslides. This stretch of North Yorkshire is lashed by the stormy North Sea. Many a ship has been wrecked on this rocky coast. But when the tide goes out, a different and mysterious landscape is revealed. You can see square holes in the rock. Even stranger are parallel ruts running along the rocky foreshore. What are they? It makes you wonder how much of what one sees along this coast is natural. As you explore this foreshore at Ravenscar, a few miles south of Whitby, you come across several sets of mysterious holes and ruts. Some of them are almost completely obscured by kelp, but you can make them out. It's easier to see ruts where the rock is bare, and if you look carefully you can see where the natural fractures cross the ruts. So it does suggest that they're man-made, and the holes are suspiciously regular in shape. It looks like some kind of strange railway track. Looking at the cliff face, I could see traces of masonry. How much of this landscape is natural? And how much has been shaped by human hands? I went up the cliffs to investigate. At the top, I was confronted by clear evidence that people had been working on this coast. A huge quarry. It doesn't look like an ordinary stone quarry. I mean, there is stone there, but in quite thin layers, and to get at it, they must have had to remove gigantic quantities of this greyer, shaly stuff. The only thing I know about these shales is that they were formed in Jurassic times under ancient seas. Wonderful fossils have been found in them. But they're hardly likely to have dug this vast pit for fossils. If it is a quarry, I wonder if there's some connection with the mysterious ruts and holes on the foreshore here. I went looking for clues up the coast to nearby Whitby. I found many traces of Whitby's past as a big and busy port. But I also found intriguing evidence of a local quarrying industry. I discovered that the site is well known from a local man, Tony Jenkins. I've been walking down on the beach. Is it called Peak down there?
The Peak?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the old name for Ravenscar.
I see,
Yeah.
right. Pretty remote part of the cliff, isn't it? I mean,
Remote isn't the word.
but what were they quarrying there?
It sounds a lot like the alum mine. Alum.
Alum, the stuff they use in for textiles and dyeing and
Yes,
stuff like that.
dyeing wool, yeah, and various other things, yeah.
So they were getting alum from the quarries. I knew that alum had been a chemical used in dyeing, but I didn't know the details. How important had it been? Had there been an industry producing alum in Yorkshire? And did it involve our trackways down on the foreshore? Thinking about it, I knew that textiles had been incredibly important in Yorkshire for hundreds of years, and all over England for that matter. In the Middle Ages, cloth had been England's biggest export. So anything to do with dyeing would have been significant. It isn't easy these days to find someone who knows about alum and how it was used in dyeing. I had to travel all the way to London to an inner city farm in Vauxhall. There, Penny Walsh, a textile designer, showed me wool that had been dyed in traditional ways and explained how vital colour dyeing had been.
It must have been very important for various reasons, really. One of the reasons, I suppose, is that the alternative is this sort of colour of a natural fleece. You would never get what you would call white. And another reason is that it differentiated between rich and poor. Rich people had brighter colours, better quality colours, whereas the poor spinster has got a very plain and
grey,
non-coloured outfit. And in fact there were sumptuary laws.
Sumptuary means that sumptuous colours were only for the upper classes.
For the rich, yes, and for people with positions. Alum was the thread running through all the colours because it gave bright, it gave good quality, clear colours.
Right across the range?
Right across the colour range. These are the alum crystals, which first of all need to dissolve in some hot water so that...
Alum was used as what's called a mordant. Cloth or yarn was soaked in it prior to dyeing.
That goes into the mordant bath. That's the fabric. Right, this is a red dye from Brazil wood, which is another ancient dye stuff.
It's a lovely colour.
Beautiful colour, isn't it?
Penny was going to dye two cloths, one treated with alum and one without, and compare them.
Bit of a stir.
After a long steeping, our cloth was ready to be taken out of the dye.
So we'll see what's happened to these pieces of fabric. This is the...
They've had something over an hour, haven't they?
Yes, they have. That's the unalumed piece of fabric. And
looks a pretty good
it has
colour.
taken the colour, but it unfortunately wouldn't last. And this is the fabric with alum. So you can see there is quite a big difference.
That is pretty impressive,
it is, isn't
I must
it? And
say.
it'll be even more so. This colour wouldn't stay on, it wouldn't wear.
So this is a fast colour
This
as
is
well.
permanent. That'll stay like that now.
No wonder the dyers were important people.
Yes.
So the mordant, alum, is essential to bind the colour to the cloth, producing brighter colours which don't fade. But Penny told me that to begin with, alum didn't come from England.
It was imported. All through the Middle Ages, it was imported from Turkey through Constantinople. It came from the Papal States. We imported everything.
And that would have been quite expensive.
Yes, it was very expensive, which probably, apart from a certain amount of religious friction, led to the 17th century search for alum.
So in the 17th century, the hunt was on for cheaper and more reliable sources of alum closer to home. They searched all over southern England, leaving a trail of names behind them. Alum Bay on the Isle of Wight and Alum Chine in Dorset are vestiges of the unsuccessful search. Eventually, a landowner in Yorkshire thought his estate seemed to hold some promise. So I went to Slapeworth, only 25 miles from Ravenscar where I'd first started. There I met historian Barry Harrison at the very place where they'd first tracked down alum. Somehow they'd worked out that these shales contained alum.
We're standing on the site of the earliest alum works in England, founded in 1604.
The mystery to me is that before any type of chemical analysis was possible, how did they identify that these were alum-bearing shales?
It was said that Sir Thomas Challoner, who owned most of the land around here, noticed that the grass was of a similar greenness here on his estate to what it was in those parts of Italy where the alum works were located. More likely, the shales that were found here are very similar to the shales that were already being used to make alum around Liège in what is now Belgium.
So as early as 1604,